Welcome to Neurospice Latte, a podcast where neurodivergent voices share real stories as well as the support that helps them in hopes of helping others feel seen. I'm your host, Anthony Gauna, a late diagnosed autistic ADHDer, and everyone that you hear on this show is a listener sharing their own lived experience. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can find a link to sign up in the episode description. But for now, my friend, it's time to settle in and grab yourself a cozy little cup of Neurospice. Well, welcome to Neurospice Latte, Ashley. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell everyone what's your flavor of Neurospice? I don't know.
That is such a perfect way to put it. Um, so I personally, according to the psychologist, I have autism and I have ADHD. Um, my mother says that I just wasn't baked long enough, which I find really funny. Um, Personally, I'm just autistic with a lot of ADHD thrown in, and I kind of just let the two figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I'm the same. So it's always just a constant battle between the 2 and the 3. I was talking to someone in the previous episode, and we were
Hmm.
talking about internal voices, and I was describing all my voices and stuff, and over on TikTok, someone had posted that I think I forgot how they worded it, but I was just like, this makes total sense. Like all the voices in my head, it's like, 1, it's me, just me as
Hmm.
me, and then it's the autism, and then it's the ADHD, and there's all these voices going on at the same time. The one side of me wants the routine and the structure, and then the other side is
Hmm.
just like, "Ah, screw it, let's do something fun."
Yes.
Uh,
I
um,
like I like to look at it as there are two wolves inside of me. One craves consistency and dedicated routine, and the other one seems to want some type of illicit substance. Um, so I usually just kind of hope for the best, but also over time, I have learned to utilize the traits of one to compensate for the supposed deficits of the other. And that's kind of balanced it out so that I can pretend to be a little bit more normal when I need it to be.
can you give me an example of something? Doesn't even I mean, something, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, I really get into safe foods, and I'm sure a lot of people have that. Like they'll eat the same thing until it tastes too much of what it is. Um, what works out really well for me is I will pick one day a week where I spend like 2 or 3 hours. I won't cook. Okay. I don't have the attention span for that. I do have the attention span to take things out of a package and put them into another package with other things I have taken out of a package. And so I can adjust things as I go and put them in containers and then just pull out what I think I want at the time. That way, I'm not constantly eating the same thing and I'm not running into issues with nutrition. Um, because I don't know about anybody else, but the executives in my brain decide that they don't want to function. They like to sit around the board table and argue about what they will or won't do, and then nothing gets done. So I will consistently lean into doing a lot more of let me try to front load a lot of the tasks that are going to take the most out of me so that when I inevitably forget to do them because there's no dopamine or serotonin in it, I still have that consistency that my autism needs, and I still have that impulse or the that's the word I'm thinking of. It's not just variety. Like, the option to be spur of the moment significantly more often, but it also keeps everything on a consistent schedule, so I'm not thrown off.
Okay. So, I guess, are you talking about, maybe, you plan out something and, well, you don't plan out anything, but,
Mhm.
a set of ingredients where,
Yes.
if you were to mix and match, you can just kind of you've
Yes.
got this there, but you don't exactly know what you're gonna make until, the day of. Is that
Yes
kind
and
of
no. Like, I totally
Okay.
get where you're coming from, and you put it much more concisely than I do. So I have a like specific list of safe foods that I will buy every single week. I get the same drinks, I will get the same ingredients, but at the same time, it's the same items, I just adjust it. So I got hyper fixated on cowboy caviar for 4 months. I would eat that for 2 to 3 meals a day. I would put it in wraps or I'd put it over chips or something like a salad. And then one day, I think it was the same day that I made this giant bowl of it, all of a sudden I didn't want it anymore. And then I had to go find people because it was a huge bowl. Okay. This was like enough to feed 12 people. And then I had to find people to eat this because I didn't want to waste that much food. And thankfully, I work with enough people that like free food. That's kind of when it hit me that I needed to either make smaller portions or find a way to adjust for that. So I will get the same things every single week, but then I lean into a list of recipes that I can adjust on the fly. So I will pre-cook and then I will grab one thing and hopefully by the time I come home from work, that's what I want to eat. Because if it's not, I don't want to spend the money on DoorDash and I will just boil some eggs.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, um I have like I'm not a great cook. I can cook, but like
Hmm.
I only have like the set number of one comfort foods that I just eat all like I can just eat over and over until I'm sick of them.
Hmm.
Um but like one of my favorite meals has actually been making like chicken fried rice
Yes.
um because it's usually only like we usually have frozen veggies in the the freezer and like we've got
Hmm.
everything at any point in time honestly and like the only thing that maybe we don't have would be like I like it with onion and basil and like chicken. We don't always have the chicken. Sometimes it's frozen in the freezer too, but I've found that the freezer not all foods freeze well, but I found
They
the
don't.
freezer to be a good, like, friend, like so I
Yes.
can make a huge batch of chicken fried rice, eat a bowl, and then
Hmm.
throw it into the freezer, and randomly throughout the week or throughout the month, it comes in handy, and I don't have to make it either. Just
It
warm it
is
up, but
magical. Have you heard of super cubes?
no, please tell me.
Oh my gosh. So when I first moved into my own place, this was, I think, 2 years ago, I was very excited to finally have my own place and I didn't share it. I was still used to cooking for four, five, six people at a time. And so I would cook something in the crock pot and then it would go into a gallon sized freezer bag and go into my freezer. I didn't think of portioning just enough for myself until I found super cubes. They come in different portion sizes, but you cook your big batch of food, you just chunk it into the super cube, you freeze it because they're made of silicone, then you pop it out and you can stick it in a freezer container, and then you have pre-done portions that you can just pop out, use the microwave, use the oven, use your air fryer, whatever floats your boat. And you can mix
Oh
and match things because they even have smaller portion sizes. So you can do mashed potatoes and meatloaf or whatever you like.
oh my god, mind blown. Okay. Yes. You get me some of those. That's cool.
Yeah, they're like I think 17 or $18 for just like a starter set, but that's
Okay.
just like a row of 3 or 4 of them.
So cool. Okay. I love that. I'm gonna next year at some point I'm gonna invest in
Hmm.
this because yeah, that's really cool. I want to go back to you said your mom told you y- you didn't cook in the oven quite as long. Is that how you phrased
Yes,
it? You didn't cook in the
I
oven
didn't
quite as long.
I didn't bake long enough.
It
So
make it long enough.
I was born 3.5 months early. And
Wait,
I
you
was
were?
Yeah. I was born in 1987 and I was born 3.5 months early. So keep in mind at the time, there was some knowledge about neurodivergence, but it was extremely limited. And it was also extremely limited towards like studying how it showed up in young white men. So at the time, they were like, oh my gosh, we didn't think you were going to survive. You are so small. Okay, but I'm not now. we're good. We've moved past that. So um, I apparently appeared to be a very strange child. I didn't talk until I think, a little older than the average. But once I started talking, it was in almost full sentences. And my ability to pronounce words wasn't pristine, don't get me wrong. But it was slightly better than the average small child. And that seemed to make some adults very uncomfortable. I was That was the moment that I no longer was the very cute little child that would show up at the Christmas party. I was the child that all of the adults were like, where are your parents? And then, of course, I found that hilarious. My parents found that hilarious. But when I got older and I started to struggle with tasks, just normal executive function tasks, and it became very abundantly clear to me that something was not right. I went to my mom and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm really struggling with these things. It's just emotional regulation and self-care tasks. And she would say, well, you just weren't baked long enough. So then fast forward to I'm 32 and I have a job managing a club and I'm doing okay, but I could be doing better. I can either function at work and not function at all in my personal life, or I can kind of sort of function at work and still not function at all in my personal life. So I do vaguely recall getting an ADHD diagnosis when I was a child. So I've got insurance. I'm going to use it. I get a psychological process done. And the psychologist just looks at me after 45 minutes of my life I will never get back. And he says, have you heard of Temple Grandin? Of course I have. You can just tell me you think I'm autistic. I've Googled it. So then I go home to my mom and I tell her what this man says. And she goes, oh, yeah, I've known that since you were like 3 or 4. But you just weren't baked long enough. Like that's just the colloquial term, I guess, or the family slang for she's just not normal.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we talked before recording, you had told me, you're about your mom kind of already knowing, and that's why I
Hmm.
wanted to bring it up.
Yeah,
How how did how did that make you feel hearing that?
I was like, I sincerely hope this is something we discuss because at first there was a lot of anger and frustration because I'd spent over 15 years of my life not understanding why everybody else seemed to be fine. Everybody else can brush their teeth and not scream. Everybody else can take a shower without banging their head against the wall and they're fine. Um, so I was very frustrated, very angry. Um, there was a point in my life where I did not speak to my family. I didn't have a relationship with them. And as much as I may have felt that the blame was on them, it was kind of a mutual thing in my current perspective. Um, because they didn't know what they didn't know, and neither did I. I was born in 1987. My formative elementary years were in the early to mid 90s. Again, the knowledge we have now, we did not have then. So everybody still thought that girls just grow out of it, like magical little pixie unicorns or something. So everyone just kind of assumed that whatever was wrong with me would go away by the time I was an adult. But what was really happening, and a lot of studies, I have no idea if they're peer reviewed, friends. I Google things and hope for the best. Reddit has been a gold mine, okay? That people just tend to internalize. Women on the spectrum tend to internalize things they learn to mask very early. My life coach even told me, she said, you learned to become socially hypervigilant as a safety mechanism because I would go to adults and say, I don't understand facial expressions. What do they mean? And that would make them uncomfortable. And it was just this very vicious self repeating cycle. So they didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know they didn't know what was wrong. I just thought they hated me. So when I finally did get this diagnosis, my mom tells me, yeah, I've known since you were a child. And I think it took me 3 years to process and journal, and then kind of just to work through the grief of the loss of time. How much further could I have been ahead at this point in my life if I'd had the interventions that I have now? But then I also realized over time those interventions did not exist. Or if they did, they were not available in my area. They were not available. They weren't even something that was within the realm of understanding. I now teach my mother more about autism than she knew as a mental health professional when I was a child.
Yeah, um I kind of went the same thing, or I experienced kind of the same thing for myself. It was
Hmm.
um, like for me, my first diagnosis was ADHD, and getting it was very. I felt like, who am I? Like, I'm just making all this up. Yeah,
Yep.
they're gonna figure me out. They're gonna like. I don't know. I just went through those emotions. Then getting it, um, they're like, "Yeah, you scored high." I'm like, "Cool, awesome." I've never scored high in anything in my life. Great, awesome, this is fun. But at the same time, it was immediately like this, like a relief. Like,
Yep.
okay, I've got these answers now. Like, well, I don't have all the answers, but like now I know I can go out and find the tools
Hmm.
for myself. And then a few days later, it immediately like spirals into this. And if I would have known this, like growing up, I would be somewhere else, like a lot further along than where I am
Yes.
now. And, and then why didn't anybody notice these things in me? Like, and I had a little bit of that, like, not like full on anger, but like a little bit of like, man, if only. And, but more so, it was more of a just like, um, it was more of a sadness, really,
Hmm.
because exactly what you're saying. It's like, we didn't have a lot of the resources and things, like we do now. I didn't even like attempt to find out until I was listening to a podcast, and podcasts weren't a thing growing up.
Hmm.
And Yeah, it immediately was just like, it's gonna be fine. Like, at least now, for me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was just kind of curious. Yeah, just after you like, yeah, we knew all along, Ashley. And I'm not sure what your emotions were, and I was super excited to kind of
Yes.
hear that.
It's just undiagnosed, but something is not right. Um, but I was going to actually ask you, what actually started giving you a clue or an indication that maybe you should seek out a diagnosis, because um, I didn't even think about autism at all until I was over the age of 30 and I was watching a television show in which one of the characters just reflected so keenly a lot of my own behaviors, and they were openly on the spectrum within the show. And that's when I started looking for a diagnosis. So I was just curious about maybe the representation that led to that, or if it, like you mentioned, you found a podcast, or if it was just an interaction.
Um, I actually, now that I'm like for sure starting this podcast, I do want to make like a solo episode, kind of like diving through it.
Hmm.
Um, that way I don't have to repeat myself for everyone.
Over and over.
Um, over and over again, but I'll kind of like give you the semi short, as short as I can do.
Hmm.
Um, so I I'm slowly getting out of wedding photography, but basically I got fired from a job that I had like many, many years ago,
Hmm.
14, 15 years ago. I don't remember. But I decided to venture off into starting my own business, and I quickly realized I was not able to keep myself organized. I don't know if I double booked anyone. I don't think I did, but I know that was a big concern for me. Organizing files, like, it was just a bunch of different moving pieces that made me want to get into learning productivity.
Hmm.
And so I got hyper focused on learning all sorts of productivity related things. Looking back, I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense," like, that I was so hyper
Right.
focused, and that was and it's still actually, like, one of my favorite things, to kind of still tinker with things and all that, but, um, because I was so obsessed with productivity, one of the things that I would do is listen to podcasts related to it. I actually don't listen to any productivity podcasts anymore. Um, but I specifically remember because I was getting ready in the morning. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth or whatever I was doing and listening to it. And the guest on the show was talking about the way he uses his calendar and how he manages like his day and his tasks and everything and how it helps with his ADHD. And the host was like, "That is crazy. Like that is intense. Like I just can't imagine." But for me, I was like, when I'm listening to him talk about his calendar, I was like, "Oh yeah, like, uh-huh, all right, I'm doing that. I'm doing that."
Hmm.
Uh, everything's got a color, everything's got a category, um, and so when the host was like, "That's crazy," I was like, "Wait, is this not normal?" And so then it got me curious, and I started just looking up, um, videos like YouTube, mostly YouTube, and then a lot of Reddit as well, and just kind of like learning about it. Because for me, um, I grew up thinking like if you had ADHD, you were just one, a boy, and like just super hyperactive. And
Hmm.
that wasn't me. Like, yeah, I had my typical crazy energy and all that, but um for the most part, like I wasn't super hyperactive. And so I've got the mix. I forgot what the right term is for it, but inattentive kind of, I guess, is what it is, but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so that led me down, like, learning about it, and then, like, I was just like, "Oh, that's me, that's me." I take a step further back into my life and my childhood, and I'm like, I did that," and all the same, like, phrases I was like, other people are told, like, "You don't try hard enough, you're
Hmm.
lazy," like, yeah, all of that, I was told by teachers, um and so that's, what got me, wanting to get diagnosed, and the funny part
Hmm.
is, like, I did this I think for probably about 3 months or so, um, before even mentioning it to my wife, and then and I think it was also, like, the same thing of, like, going to, like, get the actual diagnosis, like, feeling like I'm an imposter or, like, I'm making an excuse for
Yep.
myself or whatever, but so I write an email to my wife, and a lot of it too is because I was going through a lot of struggles, and a lot of depression. This was, like, coming right out of COVID, like, I feel like a lot of my, uh, signs of ADHD really was shining bright during during COVID.
Yep.
Um So I felt like, writing this email was a safe bet because I didn't have to actually have the uncomfortable conversation right away,
Hmm.
um, and it was like this excuse to be like, "I'm sorry, but I think this is what has been going on with me all my life," and then also proceeded to include links to other helpful videos on ADHD so that she can so I can, like, further prove myself. Um,
I'm not
and
laughing at you. I'm laughing because I did the same thing with
oh
like
my god.
every person in my life. And I didn't give them a list. I gave them a spreadsheet.
Oh my god, that makes me feel so much better.
I was like,
Um,
please, no, you are not alone. I went
as
so
I'm
far down that rabbit hole that I don't think I came back out.
yeah, as I was talking, like, the voice inside my head was like, "Oh my god, Anthony, what are you doing?" Um,
If it
yeah,
helps.
and oh, no, I was gonna say, so, like, we eventually have the conversation, me and my wife, and,
Mhm,
uh, we went down a walk, and we're talking about it, and then she brings up, I mean, I don't know, you should also look up videos, on autism. I think you're autistic, you're not ADHD, and I was like, "No, no," I was super, fixed on ADHD,
mhm.
and then that story comes out, another year later where I'm like, I think you were right." Uh,
Good.
yeah. So anyway, that's my story. I think I went longer than I was intending to, but that's typical for me.
I
Um,
I feel that can be normal for, and I don't know if you're hyperlexic or not. Um, but
would
I
you
will
would
never
you
share
mind saying
it. Mhm.
okay, I was gonna say, would you mind, defining hyperlexic?
I wish I could tell you I'll define it. I can tell you that I identify as hyperlexic, and
Okay.
I know it's a term that's used. I just don't know the exact phrasing of it, so I don't want to lead anyone down the merry path of misinformation. My
Cool.
understanding of hyperlexia or hyperlexic within the realm of neurodivergence, as it pertains to my flavor of neurospice, is that you have a deeper grasp and a deeper ability to grasp language. So you end up being able to use words more frequently and differently, whether you truly fully consciously comprehend language or not. I'm also a verbal processor by nature of the ADHD Gothic that has riddled my mind. So I tend to speak a lot. And so I kind of go back and forth between saying nothing at all or talking far too long. And then I see that everyone else's eyes just glaze over. And I'm like, ooh, it's my turn to stop now.
See, I don't even get those clues, I just keep going.
The only reason I learned them is because I started asking my life coach. And then I saw I shouldn't say like I'm obsessed with Korean TV shows, but I do enjoy them because part of what I struggle with is understanding visual cues, facial expressions, body language, things like that. So the first time I found a Korean television show, the exaggeration in facial features and the exaggeration in tone when they're speaking was so much easier to pick up on that I could finally follow a TV show without having to Google it the entire time. And it was the first time in my entire life that I sat down and just watched something. So then I hyperfixated. I picked up Talk to Me Korean in Korean because I got tired of reading subtitles and just kind of taught myself Korean. I still don't speak it very well. The only benefit I got was I don't need subtitles when I watch Korean movies and stuff. But it was extremely beneficial in the aspect that it helped me learn to pick up on more subtle cues that people give. Um, Clearly, in everyday life, people aren't going to have these exaggerated, over the top dramatic physical responses, but it helps me to slowly kind of digest that information over time and kind of fold it into my communication style. I'm still terrible at it. I'm just slightly better than I was.
Yeah. Awesome, okay. Well, I got something to look into then. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I'm very much a verbal, like, I it if I'm so glad that no one is home when I do talk to myself, but, like, I will walk around my apartment by myself when no one's
Hmm.
home, talking to myself, and not in like a, like, "Oh, hey, Anthony," but more of like, talking through, like, if I'm trying to solve something, I will
Hmm.
talk out loud to myself, or even, um, if I'm at the computer doing something that I just do not wanna do,
Hmm.
or I'm doing something that I do wanna learn, but it's a little bit difficult for me,
Yep.
I will sit there and I will talk to myself to be like, "Okay, all right, we're gonna go to the file menu, and then we're gonna click, this, and then one we're gonna select yes," and then, I will go through all of that verbally out loud.
Hmm.
I haven't looked too much into it. I've just always thought that's just, like, the weird part of myself because 'cause I've done that all my life.
This is like the most fascinating conversation to me right now because I do the same thing, but you are still a step ahead of me because I will do it no matter where I am or who's around. I bank on one day being old enough that nobody cares. So I will be at work complaining about insurance billing because that's one of the things I get to do. And I will be clicking through and going, it still won't let me bill this code, but it's the code I'm supposed to use. And then I go and I look through the code book and everything. I'm like, okay, in this state, this is the code we use. And everybody's going, are you upset? No, I'm just very focused. I am never nearly as upset as I sound. I'm just very intense. Everything's fine. Just let me be dramatic about it first. Um, and it's just everything about the way your mind works is pervasive. One of the things my life coach told me, like almost immediately, besides slow down, you'll go faster. And yes, she was right. It's fine. I'll get over that. Um, is you are not your diagnosis, because when I first got my diagnosis, it was autism this, ADHD that, and it was an explanation for everything about me that seemed to bother everybody. But much like Reaganomics, that concept trickled down eventually, not fast enough. And I fully understood the concept of yes, your neural wiring, for lack of a better phrase, is pervasive. It impacts your entire life in ways that you may never fully comprehend. That doesn't mean you are that behavior because basically, the way I understand all of the different goblins that crawl around in my brain because of the fact that I'm a bottom up thinker, um, there's so many different ways that it can impact you. The DSM-5, I believe, has different levels of autism if you want to ascribe to that way of describing autism. So that can mean that you have a sensory processing disorder. That can mean that you don't understand facial expressions, but it doesn't mean that those automatically apply. And when they say that you take something literally, they don't just mean, okay, it's raining cats and dogs, and I believe that. That can be something as simple as you are taking everything so literally that you misunderstand what your boss says at work, and that's part of the reason you got fired after 2 years. So being open about the way you function will slowly but surely actually increase your quality of life over time. And I have completely lost the train of my thought. I think I should have stopped 3 stations ago.
You're all good. Um, I also was like, is I did write a few things down, and I was
Mhm,
also thinking, like, this may or may not be a good transition point for the next question that I wanted to ask. But
mhm,
the question is basically like, I wanted to see what your thoughts are on how to mask without, like, hurting yourself.
yes.
Not that's not about not the way I was going to put it, but
Mhm,
like going so hard that you're like burning out like all the time. Um, so far, the people that I've been meeting, and like coming up in future episodes, um, one of the conversations that keeps coming up is around masking.
mhm,
Um, I think it's going to be quite a like. I think everyone's got similar experiences, but also much variations
Right.
of it. Anyway, um, yeah, I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that.
That was a very long journey to reach a point where I could learn how to engage with masking without that being something that was harmful. To try and keep this concise, I internalized masking at an extremely young age. My mother actually helped me because at the time that was considered the treatment. That was what was considered was helpful and best. So I also have like I wouldn't call it trauma, but I've been told it's trauma because I was suppressing my own way of regulating my nervous system for over 10 years. So, personally, where I had to start was working with my nervous system. I did, I think, about 6 months of occupational therapy, which you don't have to do. I'm just going to share that, put that out there because that can be expensive. Um, but re regulating my nervous system and then reorienting my perception and my understanding of social engagement helped me detach my fear of engagement so that I could actually reorient and then take the time to learn where the mask ended and I began. That was not an overnight process. It was not remotely linear. It took, I think, about 4 years. Within that time frame, I changed jobs and I changed jobs within that company 2 or 3 times and then reached the point where I am now. And the point I am now, I have to interact with countless people all day, every day, and at multiple levels of the company that I work in. And the best way I can say, if you don't have the time, you don't have the means to be able to access therapy or journaling or any of the tools that I have been given, which I am more than happy to list and send to you, even in chronological order, um, romanticize it. Romanticize everything that doesn't work for you. You don't have to fight something directly, work around it, or work under it, or work over it. Just like I mentioned that I romanticize my kitchen and I have it set up like a little tavern and I, pretend I'm shutting it down for the night. I used to view conversations, whether it was work or my personal life, as an engagement like the Hunger Games, right? I don't know what this facial expression means, but I should mask and mirror it. I don't know what this conversation meant because I have delayed processing. So I would then spend the next 3 days wondering if I'd said the right or the wrong thing or if I'd offended somebody and just didn't know until it was too late. So being able to disengage from that fear and that anxiety and leaning into being more authentically who I am and being open about my needs for communication slowly got me to a point where I could say, this is who I am. All I have to do is pay attention. So it's just a thing that happens over the course of a few years. I'm sure somebody who is smarter and quicker than me could probably do it faster, but just pretend it's something that you can manage. Whether that's turning it into a story or a game that you play, however it works for you.
Yeah, that's I love that. I'm sure someone's gonna get a lot out of that.
I hope
Um,
so, because I feel like I did
I
not make any sense.
I mean, I mean, we did speak before recording, and maybe that's why and we didn't touch that much into that, I don't think, but,
Mhm,
like, I don't know if maybe that's why it makes sense to me, but hopefully it does make sense
mhm.
afterwards. We'll find out. I don't know. Someone will let us know. Um, but, well, for okay, so I think a lot of that of what you've just said is like making things work for you, like, and like
Mhm.
creating you mentioned these things, and then you slightly brushed over your medieval kitchen,
Yes,
or tavern, whatever you call it.
yes.
I there if anybody is listening, to the podcast, um, please go to YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, there will be a video version of this on there. I haven't seen it just yet, but it will be in the video. So please make sure to, if you want to check it out. But please, Ashley, tell us about your kitchen.
I did not
How do you
realize
get
this was
things done?
I did not realize this was as cool as everybody says it is, because I
I,
never even bothered showing it to anybody I know. Because in my mind, it's just my kitchen, right?
I can't
So
get away with it. I've got a wife and son, so I'm intrigued.
I feel deep down a lot of what I get away with is because I do live by myself. But so I basically I've mentioned before, the executives in my brain do not function, right? That's how I like to phrase a lot of the things that they use terminology wise for ADHD and autism, because it doesn't feel like a monolith if you can break it down. So they talk about executive function. So with ADHD, right, you don't want to do something unless it immediately gives your brain a reward or if there's a deadline. There's never going to be a deadline to clean my kitchen because I live by myself. So I had to come up with a reason to want to clean my kitchen, because I will share that while I do take Concerta, the Concerta wears off before I even get home from work. I would never have a clean kitchen. It would just not work out for me. So I took the time to just browse Amazon, go through to thrift stores and things like that. And I curated a variety of things. Like I have cling film on my windows that it definitely doesn't look like stained glass up close, but from a distance, behind my little curtains, it looks like stained glass. Um, this is not the normal picture I have in my kitchen. I actually just moved Matilda from the bathroom just in case, because I
Oh,
thought
I
that
was
might
gonna
be
go.
more
That was
interesting.
the next thing. What is it? We'll move on.
Matilda.
Finish up with the kitchen first.
Yeah, I figured we might want to stay on track. So, I have a variety of other photos and things that go up on this wall, which you'll clearly be able to see once I send the photos in. And it's just like a little gallery wall, and all of my storage is open because I don't know about anybody else with ADHD, but if it is not directly in front of my face, it no longer exists. And I will point that out that it is not just objects; it includes people, birthdays, anniversaries, tasks. If it is not directly in front of my face, it no longer exists, and I have workarounds for those too. But all of my plates and my bowls and my cups are actually stacked on a bamboo tiered rack. And then when I'm washing them, they actually go out on the dish rack that's right here. That way I can see them. They are no longer an ethereal concept, just like time used to be. I have a baker's rack to the side of my fridge, and that houses the majority of my cooking things, but it's all kind of set up to look like it's wood or it's copper or something. Like I don't have a coffee pot, I have a French press, and I have an electric tea kettle because it's just me. I would have to use different items if I were cooking for more than myself. But everything's contained. Everything has a place that it lives, and it lives in the open. That way, I put it away every single time I'm done with it. My dishes get washed on a regular basis because by the time I'm done cooking dinner and eating, at that point, I turn on my fancy little light that I got from the dollar store, which you can't see because it's off screen. And it changes colors just based off of how quickly you turn the light on and off, and that has a frosted little lampshade over it. And then I play like background ambience that you can find on YouTube, which is like a tavern or medieval music or whatever floats your boat. I already dress like a hobbit, so I'm already playing the parts. If I took my weird little headset off, you would see the bun I've got going. So for like 20 to 40 minutes of my day, depending on how much I've cooked or how much of a mess I've made, I'm just like a tavern wench trying to get all the lazy drunk people out of the whole area so that they can go home and I can clean up and then go home. And that seems to make it go faster. And because of the weird storyline, because I will guarantee you, when I first started, I did not have a storyline, but now 6 months in, there's recurring characters. Like,
Love it. Love it.
And they all have their own lives. They're still NPCs, but they all have their own lives. And it's funny because my friend Frances, I call her every week and we parallel play. So I will clean my kitchen while she does grocery shopping, and we're talking, and I will talk to her about the NPC lives in my medieval tavern. And it works out great. My kitchen is clean almost all of the time.
Incredible. Um, I had a moment where my brain just went off for a little bit while you were talking.
Hmm.
I was thinking, I wonder if there's like a medieval, like, v- like medieval version of the uh, closing time song. I don't, you know the
I'm so
closing
glad
time song?
you asked. I'm so glad you asked this question. So if you go to YouTube, actually, I don't know if the YouTube is the only place you can go, but I actually go to this YouTube channel a lot. It's called Hildegard von Blingen. Um, in case you don't know who Hildegard von Bingen was, she was amazing. She wrote music. She was very pious. She ran, I don't want to use the wrong terms here, okay? It's been like 6 years since I read about her. But she was a healer. She was very devoted. But she wrote a lot of music, a lot of liturgical music as well. So, but because of the time period she was in, the hurdy-gurdy was used fairly frequently. And if you've never heard a hurdy-gurdy, it's like if a violin decided that it needed to throw up. That's kind of what I think a hurdy-gurdy sounds like. But Hildegard von Blingen on YouTube will take modern music and set it as if it were done in the medieval times. And it's perfect for my use.
Incredible. Okay.
So
Lots of
if
rabbit
you want to look that up, go for it.
holes. You'll have to send a link. I'm gonna try to remember to ask you about it.
I will look
Um,
for it, and if they have that song, I will just send it to you.
yeah, that would be incredible. Yeah, I was just like, I should feel bad, but no, this is hilarious. I need to make sure I mention. Okay, I want to do another. So tell us about Matilda. Is it Matilda?
Matilda. But okay,
Okay.
so I've mentioned this a couple of times that I think I used to struggle with like self-care tasks, and one of which was brushing my teeth. I don't know about anybody else, but when I brush my teeth, it feels like I'm dragging sandpaper across my gums and my tongue and my teeth and everything else that goes in there. So I also struggled remembering to do it. So I found Matilda and decided that Matilda has gingivitis. And Matilda actually lives in my bathroom, hung directly across from my bathroom mirror. So that every time I go in my bathroom and I see Matilda, I too remember to brush my teeth, whether I want to or not. And I actually have a variety of different photos within my apartment. I have Genevieve who takes a bath, because once upon a time I had a lot of sensory issues with bathing. It was just the temperature difference between water and air. It was very overwhelming. It actually felt very painful. So I promise not to like be too oddly graphic, but I used to bang my head against the wall of the shower. And I know you mentioned you were like, "Ooh, am I really? Do I really have ADHD, or am I just doing this for attention?" I had years where I was like, "Oh, am I just doing this for attention?" And my mom said something that was incredibly powerful to me. She said, "You're alone and you're banging your head in the shower. Do you still think you're doing this for attention, or do you think there's something wrong?" So,
Yeah.
anybody who's worried about whether you're doing this for attention or do I really have something wrong, I would say if you're doing these things or you have an issue when you're alone or when nobody's looking, I would venture to say you definitely would probably like to pursue something just to see if it does make a difference, because I promise you're not doing it for attention. You're not gaslighting yourself. It really is there. But yes, Matilda has gingivitis, and Genevieve needs to remind me to shower every day.
Do you have any other type of pictures for reminders or any sort of things
Yes.
that you use? reminders?
So between the ADHD and the autism, everything is external for me. I need external reminders to do things. I have reminders on my phone because I have a lower amount of interoception, which is your brain's ability to connect to your body's signals and cues. I also need those visual reminders to do things. Um, just like I need to take my medicine every day, which I have on my windowsill. I actually have a picture, it's over in my windowsill. It's a picture of like a raccoon and it's popping pills. And it's right behind my medication. So same thing with brushing my hair. Everything in my bathroom is cat themed. So every picture, like hair brushing, teeth brushing, face washing, and showering. I have a gallery wall in my bathroom for all of those things because you don't have to make your visual reminders ugly. You don't have to make it clinical. You just make it what works for you so that you can actually enjoy living your life. And it helped me become much more independent than I ever had been before. I mean, I still don't remember to eat most of the time. Like, there was a 4-year span where my mother would text me 3 times a day, every single day. Did you eat? What did you eat? I need you to tell me that you ate more than a handful of Chex Mix. Um, so I also have visual reminders for that in my living room. I actually have pictures. I found a bunch of like it's technically Renaissance Baroque or whatever, but it's animals and like weird Renaissance clothing, but they're eating food and it looks like a weird little oil painting. Um, because I need it to be absurd. And so now I'm actually making little museum plaques. So I can write really absurd Wes Anderson Grand Budapest Hotel style, like museum descriptions of what it is so that I can make it look like I'm actually all together and this was a decor theme and not like a reason to not need a caregiver.
I love all that. Just like your visual reminders, like,
Hmm.
I feel so unique. I haven't heard of that, of anybody doing that. I mean, aside from, like, Post-it notes and stuff,
Hmm.
which fine, I mean, you can have different colors, but the
Hmm.
fact that you're using, like, actual like, paintings, and it's it's not just helpful, but it's also a reflection of, like, your personality and
Hmm.
everything. I I love that. Um, because, like, for me, I don't know if that would necessarily work for me
Hmm.
personally. I'm more of the boring clinical,
Hmm.
where I everything goes into my to-do list, and I can see it
Hmm.
on my phone, and I can check
Right.
off, I took the trash out, great. I brushed my teeth, great. I showered, great. Like, and it's just simple little things, and
Right.
I so get s I get that, like, excitement because I'm like, "You know, I actually did something today." Maybe I
Yes.
didn't make anything great, but, you know, I did something.
No, that totally makes sense. So then my question is going to be, do you like to use your phone for different apps and things like that? Like do you like playing games and like checking tasks off? Does that give you a serotonin boost?
Yes, absolutely. Like, okay, well, I don't like games.
Mhm.
I'm not a games person
Mhm.
whatsoever. But just like, I need it in a basic form of just like a list of items to check off. Um, and just being able to check those off is really like it makes me feel like I've accomplished something for the day.
Mhm.
Um, so use it in conjunction with my calendar. And so the app that I use, it's called AccuFlow.
Mhm.
It's basically a calendar and a to-do list all built into one. And it also aggregates a bunch of different services into it. So not
Nice.
just the not just the um like the to-dos, but, like, if you use other to-do apps or services, you can have everything go into there. So, like, for instance, um, I have it connected to my Gmail. So if when I'm going to check my email, I'm like, oh, I need to respond to this. I'm not going to do it right now, but I need to set time to do it. I just star it,
Mhm.
archive it, and then just keep going through my email. And then when I go into AccuFlow, they have the inbox, and the way that they use their inbox is anything that comes in, it needs to be scheduled, and you don't have to schedule it with like it needs to be done today or tomorrow. It could actually just be it needs to be done this week or this month. And then when I see that on like come up into my list, all I have to do is click a keyboard shortcut. Like I just hit the O button, and it automatically opens up the link that I need to go and reply to it. I don't even have to think about going to find it or anything. And so um that like, for me, that helps because it moves so fast and, like, everything just collects into one area that I don't get distracted by something else, and so,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm an apps person, but, I try not to use too many apps, but that's also a thing that I enjoy doing is trying different things, but
Mhm.
I usually come back around to, like, the things that just continually work for me, and that's the calendar. The other part about the calendar is you're able to time block the
Mhm.
things in your schedule, and so I can visually see my day if, because that's the time blindness part of me, it's so bad, um, but if I'm able to visually see,
Mhm.
um, my day and I can s I can feel good about myself if I visually see, "Anthony, you don't have time to do this and this and this." I can move it onto another day and not feel guilty about it, and so,
Right.
uh, yeah.
One of the things my life coach told me that helped a lot in regards to not only slow down, you'll go faster, but learning to not say yes to everything, right? Take a moment and step back and say, "Let me think about it. I'll get back to you." Because I used to say yes to everything because the ADHD wolf that lives inside of my brain would immediately jump at any novelty or any, "Oh, you want me to do something? You must like me." Clearly, I should say yes. So I would end up double booking things, or I would agree to way too much in one day. And then, just like you've mentioned, the time blindness would kind of just rise up and swallow me whole. And then I wouldn't realize I'd done this until the day of, and I was getting several text messages at the same time going, "Hey, where are you?" I was still in bed because I had no idea I'd agreed to anything, even though it was in three different calendars and my journal. Um, so I kind of leaned into not saying no, but let me get back to you. Let me check my calendar. I have a calendar in my kitchen. I have a calendar in my bedroom. I have two calendars on my phone and I have my work calendar. I guarantee you, I almost never look at them. I just wait for my phone to pop up with a reminder because I have a better grasp of time now after doing occupational therapy. Um, But I think it's a combination of the occupational therapy movements that I've learned to do, and I still have to do them every single day, in addition to the medication I take. So time used to be an extremely ethereal concept to me, right? Yesterday is the same as 3 weeks from now. Now 20 minutes is kind of closer to 40 minutes, but I have a better grasp of time than I used to until something upsets my routine. Like, I think it's December now, so I think my grandma died, I think, about 2 months ago, and I wasn't super close to my grandmother, and I don't say that to be horrid, I promise. I love her deeply. We just weren't as close as we were when I was younger. So I wasn't distraught emotionally because I was glad that she was out of pain. But when she passed away, we then went through the process of my dad helped plan her funeral. I took time off work. I drove back out to where my family lives. And that whole process of leaving my routine for 3 days, in addition to the emotional turmoil of just processing grief, kind of threw me out of my routine to the point where I took my medication, but I didn't do my exercises. I wasn't in my environment. So the process of going back into my routine took like 2.5 to 3 weeks. So the whole concept of healing is not linear, and you can be as regulated as you can possibly be. You will still have high points and low points. And to learn to go with the ebb and flow of your high points and your low points, in my opinion and my experience, has truly become like the crux of emotional regulation. Because I used to be wildly dysregulated, and that was one of my biggest issues.
I I love that you've shared that because I think a lot of people are gonna really need to hear that, or
Hmm.
be reminded of that, or maybe it's the first time something like that has crossed their mind just because the reason I started this was because I learning about how my brain works, it allowed me to be a lot more easier on
Yes.
myself. And I think what you've mentioned is something that a lot of us really need to hear. Like we really need
Thank
to
you.
go easy on ourselves.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it's the same for me. Like with my wife is a professor, so she's on like a school schedule, and we have a son and he's on school schedule, and so there's like I literally go through seasons throughout an entire year, having to like I already know that when their schedules change, there's gonna be weeks where
Hmm.
it's gonna take me a while to get used to not having the old routine, getting
Yep.
used to the new routine, and then once I'm used to the new routine, the old routine comes back, and
Yep.
it used to be so frustrating for me, and I mean, it still is, but, like, it's no longer an issue of, like, me just being grumpy all the time to my family to where it's just like, Anthony, it is what it is. Like, you don't like this. It's okay. You're going to be
Hmm.
fine. Go easy on yourself. It's okay if you don't do anything today. It's okay if you only
Yes.
do one thing. Um, so I really appreciate that. Like you kind of sharing that and putting it that way. And I also, appreciate you saying yes to this,
Thank you.
especially you mentioned, saying no to more things than, than you should be saying yes or however you phrase that. Um, Appreciate that. I've loved this conversation. Is there anything you want to like end with before we hop off? Is there any advice you want to give either to maybe anyone who's recently finding out, their brain's different or
Mhm.
have known for a long time? I don't know. Like, do you have anything?
Um,
Not to put you don't have to have any. You've already
oh
said
no, you're good. I've been thinking about this ever since I saw your video, and I was like, I volunteer as tribute. Um, Honestly, like I've said this multiple times already, and it may hurt to hear. Slow down. You will go faster. I hated that the moment my life coach said it 6 years ago. But it has truly become the most transformative thing in my life. Um, Everything that she's asked me to do, I have done, most of it begrudgingly, but it has vastly improved my life. And the biggest one is slow down. Um, and that seems very generic, right? But that can be anything. Just like I'd mentioned, don't say yes to everything immediately. Take that step back and say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Don't be super quick to judge. And the reason I say it that way is because I don't know about anybody else, but with my personal flavor of autism, um, you have that fancy advanced pattern recognition for a reason, and it serves you great in a lot of ways. But if your pattern recognition picks up a trigger that you don't fully understand in the moment, and then you immediately rush in with the judgment, you're running off of emotion. And so that could be another aspect where if you slow down, you'll go faster because you're giving yourself extra time to process. Not everybody has delayed processing, but I do. So the more I've learned to slow down and look at the entire picture, not just the tiny detail I'm focused on, that is how I was able to build a structured routine. That is how I was able to look at what was and wasn't working in my life and start putting things into place. The more I slow down and look at my emotional intelligence in addition to my actual intelligence, my everything has improved. I make more money, I have more friends, I have a better grasp on what fulfills me as opposed to drains me. And I don't assume that everybody will benefit from this one piece of advice because you'll clearly need to like look at how that could even begin to apply to you. Um, but that has been like the thought I wake up with every day since I saw your video and we had that conversation. And I was like, how do I want to phrase this? Um, and I hope that I'm phrasing this in a way that does make sense. And if it doesn't, that's my fault, not yours, friends.
It makes sense to me. Before you even mentioned or before you had even said, like, it could be many different ways of slowing down, I was
Hmm.
already gonna be if you hadn't said anything similar to that, I was gonna jump in just to be like, it could be anything really,
Yes.
and, yeah, it really can be, like, um, it so many different things it could be
Yes.
applied to. I thought that was just a great thing to
Yes.
share. Yes, I think we all begrudgingly will be like, "Ugh, I don't like doing it." And sometimes,
Yes.
it's okay to be like, "You know what? Screw it. Like, I'm not slowing down today." But
Right.
that will catch up.
And it can, and if it helps, 'cause I promise I don't wanna drag this out, it's just I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, everything's connected." Your brain is designed to keep you alive, and your brain wants efficiency. So, you're going to want to go faster because your brain wants the same routine that it's used to, it gets the shortcut. So, that is why it's so difficult to break bad habits. That's also why it's incredibly difficult to build the good ones. So, keep that in mind when you hear a concept of slow down, you'll go faster. Part of the reason you want to race and race and race, the more you run, the less you're going to catch, and the more you're going to react rather than respond. And also, one last thing, habit stack. I do not remember to take my afternoon dose of medication. So I also know that because I have my giant cup, like almost all people my age, because you're supposed to stay hydrated. I bought one of those fancy cups where I put like a tube in here, and that's where my afternoon medication is because it's right in front of my face. Stack your
It's
habits.
cool.
It goes so much
Yeah.
quicker, and you don't have to work as hard to remember to build those habits that you need. It's a shortcut straight through that efficient brain system that your brain wants you to have anyway.
Yeah, habit stack is great. Like, I found that works tremendously well for me.
Mhm,
Oh, like, for instance, um, my nightly routine is when I go to brush my teeth, I also, do my f like, cleanse my face, moisturize, and all that. Because I used to be absolutely like, I never did it, honestly. It wasn't
mhm,
until my wife started, like, being like, "You need to use moisturizer," and now that I'm getting older and, like, the wrinkles are starting to come in
mhm,
or, like, whatever, um, and now I'm, like, diligent about it, and immediately after I brush my teeth, it's just habit kicks in, and I'm
mhm.
immediately washing, and so, that's one of the ways that I habit stack, but yeah, it works well, like, once you figure out and having the things all like, in the same area, that's
Yes,
where it's, like, come
yes.
come together really, really well, and so,
Mhm.
yeah, great point. Um, well, thank you so much, Ashley, for doing this. Appreciate your time and everything. Um, for everyone listening, I appreciate you, or watching. I appreciate you being here and spending a little bit of your time with us and listening to Ashley's story and some of the things that she shared. Um, don't forget, if you like to watch this, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. And if you prefer the audio versions of this, you can find them on Spotify or Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, whichever the ones. The links will be in the description below for everything. And then one thing, as I mentioned in the intro, is this podcast is really about it being the listeners sharing their stories. This isn't about a lot of like having big name guests. I really want to share real stories. And so if after you've listened to this and you realize you've got something that you would like to share that you think would help others, be sure to reach out. There's a link in the episode description where you can go to sign up to be a part of this. Doesn't matter if you're local to me in San Antonio or anywhere around the world. I would love to be able to share your story. So be sure to reach out. And until next time, be a little bit kinder to yourself this week. And I look forward to bringing you another episode and another nice, cozy, warm cup of Neurospice Latte. Thank you so much.